Hey, good morning, guys. Hope everyone's having a great Saturday. Hope you had a great week as well. Just wanted to jump on, do a trade recap, but first and foremost, thank you guys so much for all the birthday wishes on Friday. Overwhelming amount of people that reached out to me, so I truly appreciate it. Very grateful for each and every one of you in the community that we built. And honestly, thank you guys so much. I mean, I love you guys. You guys are some of my best friends. I mean, I talk to a lot of you guys every single day, so thank you, thank you, thank you. New people, welcome as well. I know I did a crazy discount just to kind of boost engagement. It has nothing else to do with anything. I think I'm very open with how much I make with Discord and everything like that. It's like $1,400 I'm going to be pulling out of this thing. So it's not really about money. I just wanted to get new people in that can learn. Obviously, I think I told you guys I have like 212 members, 230 members, and maybe like 50 to 60 chat, and then we'll have like some people chime in here and there. But I really just wanted to expand how many people chat, how many people kind of provoke different ideas, how many people that we can get that trade like us, that will be able to spot different charts in particular sectors that we never look at. Just overall increase the community. So that is why I did that. A ton of people joined. I didn't expect that, so I did close it off. So yeah, won't be doing anything like that ever again, if I'm being honest, because it was pretty overwhelming. But welcome in, welcome in. I typically do this every day, every week. Sometimes it kind of falls off just depending on how busy I am. I have a lot of side projects I've been doing as well, guys, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, this is from Friday. I wasn't really supposed to trade this. I was out and about doing particular activities. I know some of you guys saw it in the chat. But overall, right, I mean, I just saw a huge opportunity here. QQQ specifically just looked pretty weak, and I was looking for a short on tech, especially after CPI came in at just a tad cooler, right? I think it was by zero point 0.1, and we ended up having a small gap up, which would have held, right? But then pre-market, it pulled right back down and ended up being right near the previous close, right? So if you think about that, that's almost like an IV crush, where there's a lot of volatility kind of applied to this crazy data set that's supposed to come out, and then the data set is cooler, but then the move doesn't hold, right? A lot of those contracts are going to be crushed. People are going to close, take profits, or close and take the loss. And specifically call side, right? They're going to fucking all dump their contracts at once. You're going to see a lot of selling of equity at that point. And yeah, I mean, this kind of lined up for a perfect move. And if you guys have known me, right, I was, at least all week, I was pretty short on NVIDIA. I took a short on Monday or Tuesday where we caught this wick here off of this high to low 618. So we caught it, I think, on Monday. Yeah, we caught a good portion of this here, or maybe we caught it on Tuesday. I don't remember. But if you guys kind of see my volume patterns here, I mean, a lot of the price and volume didn't make sense, right? Where we see, and we saw it back here. This is why I have this noted, where we have this low volume grind up, and then we end up getting this massive engulfing bar either on a Thursday or a Friday that kind of sweeps Wednesday's high, and then we make our way down to test this. I would say this is a liquidity pool, right? There's a ton of daily equal lows here. There's an unfilled gap, and the market kind of keeps coming back down to this. It kind of recollects, and then it pushes back up, pulls back down, and recollects. And I think it's going to keep doing that until this gap is filled. But technically, long story short, I mean, we kind of know going into the week that by Wednesday will typically have your high or your low of the week already. And what we ended up seeing was this very, very low volume on Wednesday hammer candle, right? This is a very, very weak candle, and we kind of know, right, that we have a potential for a lower high here. We're moving up on low volume. So really what you want to see is volume fizzle out. And it failed to make a new high, right? And kind of sell off and start to change character with either a footprint candle or a large candle that ends up starting to engulf a couple days, one day, whatever. You just want to be able to have a definitive top that you can go short on and then risk this high, right? So you'd like, let's say you go short here, you'd risk this high up here, and then you target the swing low or the higher low, and that's kind of how you'd base this trade, right? That's a 3R trade just from that. Now, if we end up taking a look, you guys will see we ended up having a huge candle here on Thursday. This engulfed the entire week. This is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We sold all the way through that in one day. You have a volume print that's higher than any of the markup days, right? This is all low volume once again. So you can kind of say, hey, this is probably our lower high. Instead of going short into the close, what you can do is you can just simply wait for a retest. And remember, I talked about this on Monday, Tuesday. You rejected the 618 here, but you broke above on Wednesday, and then obviously you swept Wednesday's high on Thursday. But still, it's not always about just definitively shorting the 618. I think there's this stigma that you have to short the 618. That's the sweet spot to get in. No, 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 no. All this really is a gauge, right? This is a gauge to understand where your premiums are discounted for the current trend, right? So we're obviously moving up. We're moving up. There's a lower high. So from high to low, right? This is just a discounted spot. Let's change the colors here really quickly, right? This is a discounted spot to get cheap premium for puts, right? So just think about it. At the 0.5, that's 50% off of the current move. If you go to the grocery store, you see something 50% off, right? You're likely going to buy it. So this is an interesting, or a place of interest to buy puts, right? And the 618 is probably the highest that I'll go. But take a look at how nicely this ended up lining up, right? We ended up breaking back under. It pushes up to retest the 618, and we're now in our golden zone to take puts, which are highly discounted, right? Obviously, they have a little bit of a spike because we saw volume come in and it started this nice downtrend, but still, they're still discounted. And now let's tie in one other thing and why I was so, so emphatic on taking this position. If we go to the 15-minute now, I got to make sure everything's off. We had a bearish progression gap from here to here, right? So that's why this whole zone is highlighted red. This is from Tuesday's close to Wednesday's open, right? So a nice little gap up here. So bearish progression gap. I'll kind of tighten this up just a little bit. And if you're new here, guys, a lot of the older people know exactly what this is. So yeah, if you're older, you guys know exactly what this is. If you guys are newer, go look at some of the educational videos on bearish and bullish progression gaps and the significance of them. I'm not going to do it right now. My mouth is a little dry. But yeah, so take a look. Bearish progression gap. We end up breaking down underneath it. We're pushing back up to retest that bearish progression gap and take a look at where it aligns with, right? The 618. And I already know, okay, let me highlight this again, that we're now in a discounted region for puts. We're hitting the 618. And take a look at how beautiful this was. The higher low was caught, right? And let's also talk about structure really quickly, right? So we know that there was a daily higher or potential daily lower high that was put in right here. But we got to know that things also happen on smaller time frames, right? It's not always just one big thing. So we have a daily lower high here. We break down. We catch a higher low off of this support here. What do? We push up. What is the volume doing here, guys, for this push up, right? Does anyone want to answer that? It's diverging, right? We're diverging, leading into discounted premiums for puts. Our 618 once again, our bearish progression gap. This looks like a lower time frame, lower high. Hopefully you guys answered that. So what did I do? I'm okay taking losses as long as my R's line up, right? So I said to everybody, like, hey, there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can go short with me and either risk, let's kind of pull out our tools here. If you went short like right here at the 618, you could have kept it super tight and gone against the top of the bearish progression gap, which is at 132.42, and then you would have targeted, right? You want to target a sweep underneath these lows here. And me, right, I don't have it marked right now. I don't use these all the time, but what is between this wick and this wick right here? I'll just draw it out real quick. What is that? I know you guys are probably, some of you guys are answering, some of you guys are waiting for me. This is a bullish fair value gap, okay? So we are waiting or looking for a pullback to sweep underneath these lows here, right? And then trade into this imbalance here. This is why I have this blue line here and trade into this fair value gap down here. And ideally, one of these days, we'll end up going super deep and filling this gap. But that's what we were looking for. And then take a look at the risk to reward. That's insane on the underlying. Obviously, it would be a huge return in terms of options. A more realistic one would have been risking that Thursday high, right? And then obviously targeting this somewhere in this fair value gap down here, right? So it could have been anywhere from a 2.3R if you went like midway through, right? Basically a 2R trade. And the reason that we do that is that we can protect our, or have our wins always take care of our losses. You can theoretically then lose one trade, and as long as you hit a winner, you'll always be 2 steps ahead, right? And the point of that is it keeps you alive in this game, guys. Trading, you're always going to have losses. You're going to have wins, but a lot of the times when you have a win, you're going to close that thing really quick for like a 1R, And then when you lose, you're going to like bag hold and like, oh, this thing's going to come back, this thing's going to come back, and you're going to average down, and you're going to end up taking 4 or 5 steps back when you're only trimming your winners at 1R, right? It's a recipe for disaster. So it's always about making sure your risk reward always puts you a couple steps ahead, and holding the target to target. Obviously, I trimmed a good amount of this into the close, which I probably shouldn't have done. I still have a position, right? I still have a small position, but ideally, right, I mean, I was up 50, 60%, guys. This happened very, very quickly, but ideally, this pushes down, like I said, into the 127.04 daily lows here, and then starts to push down. And I'm sure we'll have more of these. We'll have probably a bounce here, a lower high, and then we'll progressively make our way into that fair value gap. Let me change this color, by the way. This is driving me insane. There we go. OCD is going to kick in for this video, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm crazy. There we go. So there's something like that, and that's how you'll get your 2R trade. But that's essentially what I was looking at, guys. And then on top of that, I'll try to make this as quick as I could. Same exact thing here for QQQ. Wasn't as nice, right? That's why I went with NVIDIA, but same exact concept here. This was Tuesday. You had kind of like your progression gap. One second. Sorry, I had to sneeze. You had like your progression gap from here to here, though, so it was a little bit different. So I mean, it gets like super, super murky here. Like that would have been your progression gap, right? Which it did wick over. Remember, wicks do the damage, and then the candle close tells you the story. So if you take a look, it kind of swept over the top of the progression gap and then closed with an inside bar underneath, and then you had this crazy meltdown, and then you had your break of structure right here. So I was telling everybody, if you're going to trade QQQs, just wait for the break of structure here, and then look for the simple retest and then a fail back down. And once again, you got to start trying to trade things towards these spots here. So this gap obviously filled down here, which was a daily gap, but take a look. This had a really nice markup off of one candle, right? And then obviously it pulled back. You had more liquidity built here, and then a big move. So this is a very, very important single bar, right? This is a demand zone. And this is also kind of like a major liquidity zone, right? This had such a large move off of this gap. There's going to be multiple buyers still here. So this is your draw, right? So this is an easy target to let this come to and look for this to sweep under and then maybe get back above, right? That's a story for another day, though. So we won't worry about that. But this is your draw. This is where we're looking for the price to trade to on Qs. But you guys can see what I was looking at, right? Everything looked good. Everything looked good for a sell-off. I just chose NVIDIA because of the obvious weakness here, or that was on that. Qs, just once again, going off that Thursday bar, how could you not look to go short, right? How could you not look for a retest of a previous day low, a gap, your discounted zones, whatever it may have been for that in particular? So like once again, right, we kind of pushed up into this zone here. We were consolidating and chopping in this progression gap here. And then I was waiting for the breakdown to start in the supply. Once that breakdown started in supply, instantly light bulb went off. I said, fuck, let's go look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA hourly was doing what? Pushing into this spot. I had all my zones already kind of aligned minus this. And I said, all right, I'm going to pull the trigger. And it was that simple. My risk reward is already aligned. I kind of already had charted this. I knew exactly what to risk. I knew the structure of the chart. I wasn't chasing flow. I wasn't doing anything crazy because there are some flow traders that were getting in down here, guys, which is kind of crazy. But we'll see how this ends up opening up. I do think we're going to keep going lower. I think this is going to go down into this fair value gap. But yeah, that's just a kind of a walkthrough in my brain, how I saw NVIDIA, even while I was out drinking. Like these setups should be like the back of your hand. It's things that you consistently take, things that you're patient for, and that you're waiting for discounts to present themselves before you get in. And yeah, just being able to calculate risk to reward. Even if you lose these things, it's okay because it'll be a small loss, and then your next win ideally is 2R, and it covers 2 more trades. So let's see how these open up. I'm really excited to kind of show you guys a little bit more as we have more time together of how I trade, how I take measurements of my risk and my reward, and kind of the setups that I trade over and over and over again, because they will look very familiar. So get comfy, because you guys will see the same stuff a lot, and how I tie in higher time frames into my lower time frames, and so on and so on. But that's going to be all, guys. I'm going to take the rest of the day off, go enjoy my life, and then tomorrow I'm going to be on it with the scan. We'll try to get like 3 to 4 charts and go from there. Oh, really quick before I do leave, I just want to say it also helped too if we go back to QQQ while we were in this spot up here in this progression gap. I will show you guys this really quickly. We'll go to display. This level was getting bid heavy on QQQ, right? It was 491.4. It was 1.4 million or 150,000 shares. And then if we take a look at SPY, SPY is usually the bigger vehicle, right? A lot more people trade SPY than Qs, but same exact thing was happening on SPY, 556.6, right? So remember, the market needs, in order for the market to move down, you have to have people selling, but you also have to have an equal pull, right? People need to be buying at lower levels. So when those sells happen, right, which are going into buyers at the highs, the market will naturally have an auction effect where it'll get pulled down and market makers will push price towards the biggest buyers. So you need to have buyers at lows. So if we take a look, right, we kind of see huge amount of money. I wouldn't say huge, but it's a good enough pull, right? I mean, that's a good amount of money at the lower levels. So if we take a look at Qs once again, okay, 491.8. Now if we switch back to this really quickly, 491.8, where is that at? Right? I mean, I just said this in the video. This is this large gap that filled on the daily, right? Also, this very large, and you guys can see just how much volume is coming into these lows here. So there's obviously buyers. We can tell that by the shadows here, or the wicks coming off of this gap, and you can tell by how big of a move came off of this as well. This wasn't really sell pressure at these lows. So they were once again bidding the same spot, 491.8, which is right in this gap here. So I think they're going to rewash this level. Like I said, you could see this happen where it has this break of structure, it sweeps. We're going to see another big buy come in, and then obviously maybe mark back up. Who knows? This could be a lower high. You got to start thinking and envisioning how this would look, right? You might get something like this, and it sells the lower again. If everything cools off, which I doubt, I think we're going to keep running until elections. But yeah, that's the one other piece I wanted to show you guys that helped kind of feed my thesis for this trade.